You've got to record.
Oh, I do got to record, don't I? I always forget that. All right. Yes. First off, these guys are great. They're just excellent. There's a lot of misinformation about there. That's like crocodiles, kind of the evil creatures. And I mean, for the most part, they do eat people. They're pretty brutal in some regards, but like they're not evil. They're just eat what's given to them. There's a lot. They're good. They're good. And we'll just start off by giving a little bit about them. First of all, they're really old. They were kind of around with the dinosaurs. They've been around for such a long time, and they're just old. And they're one of the last archosaurs. They're not dinosaurs. They're actually closer to birds than they are to lizards, which is quite that blew my mind when I found that out. But yeah, so in the past they had these massive like kind of old species, like this one here. This diagram, like you first look at it, it doesn't really look that impressive, but then you realize this one up here is the American alligator, and you kind of get a sense for the scale then. So they were really quite massive. But yeah, and basically these are kind of opportunistic carnivores. They'll sit in the water. We all know that image of like the crocodile with its head just above the water, the murky water, waiting for its thing, looking like a log. And they really do look like logs. I was in Australia in 2009, and we went on a boat trip, and I saw some crocodiles, and they really did. They just look like logs. So you never see them coming. And they're bog feeders. They'll eat massive amounts. They'll bask in the sun, and they'll just digest for ages. And they can actually run really fast. But one of the things that they'll say, if you're getting chased by a crocodile, they can't turn very easily. So if you're running away from a crocodile, you're not going to outrun it straight up. But if you turn corners, then it'll. But another thing about that is, do not zigzag, because they'll figure it out and they'll just come up to you much quicker. So wait for them to turn. And yeah, a lot of them. I was surprised to hear this. A lot of them burrow. So they by the water's edge and in like kind of tree roots, they'll make burrows and they'll go hibernate, which really, like, I don't know, that's weird. You don't really expect that from such a big animal like a crocodile. I don't know. But yeah, in terms of reproduction, they vibrate extremely rapidly, and that makes that kind of low rumbling sound, and that attracts a mate, which is really quite weird. I kind of hate the way videos work on PowerPoint, so I didn't add one, but I'll try to find one and send it to you guys later, because it's really quite cool to see. But there's one in the vertebrates as well that you'll get to. And yeah, they lay clutch to about 40 to 60 eggs. They're temperature sex dependent, so they're probably quite susceptible to climate change in the same way that turtles are. But I haven't read much about that, so maybe let's find out. And they're really good parents. They take care of their young for really long times. So like 2 to 3 years for most of them. And then yeah, males territorial, and they leave the water to breed. And one thing I want to say is a lot of this information comes from this crocodile zoo in the UK, Crocodiles of the World. And they're doing a lot of good work with it. And it's kind of, I don't know, I just thought I'd bring them up because it's cool. Yeah, onto identification. Now, the thing with these is that you're not going to come out of this talk in being able to identify all the crocodiles, because a lot of them look very similar. But a lot of them are saying that a lot of them are very different at the same time. So some of the ones like Chinese alligators are quite easy to distinguish. So you'll see those and you'll instantly kind of know. But a lot of them are very kind of similar. The mugger crocodile, the saltwater crocodile, they're just these big beasts. But you can kind of tell where they are from where you are in the world. Is the kind of biggest indication of them. But also within the species, there's this huge variation, and you'll see, and I've got lots of pictures of them. You'll see like within an individual species, you have this massive like range of like colors and sizes and morphology, and it's really quite interesting. They're cool. They're really cool. There are three main groups. So they all come under the crocodilians. So you have the Alligatoridae, which are the caimans and the alligators. the Crocodilidae, which are the proper crocodiles, like the actual thin standard ones, and the Garryalidae or Gavialidae, because British people can't read, but I'll get to that. I'll explain that. Garryalidae is confusing, but yeah, we'll get to that. And the two interesting kind of physiological things between them are the lingual salt glands, which are kind of osmotic regulation. So the crocodiles have more of them across their body, so they're more tolerant to salt water, which is kind of interesting. And the integumentary sense organs are kind of like little pits all over their body, like the kind of lateral lines of the fish, which is kind of so they can really sense movements in the water. So there's a cool video, I'll try to find that and send that as well, where they have this crocodile, I think it's a dwarf crocodile, in a tank in the dark, and they have a fish that swims by, and it just catches it instantly. It knows exactly where it is, just by the water, and it's really quite cool. So first up are the alligators. Oh, my notes are not working. There are two main species. You have the American alligator and the Chinese alligator. The American one is kind of like 5 meters. It weighs up like half a ton, and the Chinese alligator is like up to 2 meters. So they're really quite small. And they have this U-shaped jaw, which is the way you tell them apart. So it's quite round and it's quite friendly. It's the kind of way you describe alligators. And the upper jaw is larger than the lower jaw, so it completely closes over it. So when they have their mouth closed, you'll see in the coming slides, you can only see the teeth of the top jaw coming out. So that's a really good way of telling the alligators apart. And that jaw is used for like cracking hard shells, like turtles and all that kind of stuff. Their teeth are conical, so rather than the crocodiles, which are more dagger-like, and like the caimans as well, they have different teeth as well. It's kind of those coney teeth. And the inside of the mouth is beige, which is interesting. And if you're using that to identify the crocodiles, you're probably not going to be able to use the information afterwards. But yeah, and they don't have that salt gland that I was talking about in their tongue, so they're less tolerant, the alligators, to salt water. And then the integumentary sense organs are around their head. So if you get real up close and you can see their skin, you can see little dots. You can see it's around the head. But again, if that's how you're telling them apart, you're probably not going to last long enough to have anyone. So the first one is the American alligator. I'm kind of wary of time. I should probably speak a little bit quicker, but these should go quite quickly. This one is huge. It is the big alligator. Everyone's seen this video of the one on the Florida golf course. That's just insane. So they grow up to 5 meters, and they nearly went extinct, but now they're kind of thriving from conservation efforts, which is quite nice. They're stuck to fresh water. They're really strong swimmers. I think all of these are, but the American alligators are really strong one. But they're not very good on land, so they don't walk quite as well. But yeah, they'll bask in the sun in their spare time. They'll dig holes to trap heat, and yeah, like all of them, they're opportunistic carnivores. And generally, with all the crocodiles, the size of the prey correlates with the size of the crocodile. So you'll get the juveniles will eat mice and insects and like little small birds and stuff, and the big ones will eat deer. So they're really quite, they'll eat anything really. So yeah, these ones are kind of nocturnal. They'll drag their prey into water and drown it. And yeah, they hibernate as well. So they dig holes like 20 meters long in the water, and they'll and not in the water in the winter, and they'll just lie there, which is quite cute. But yeah, they're doing really well, which is nice. Oh yeah, and they're keystone species. So ecosystem engineers, they're very important. And you can see with their range here, kind of down to Florida. Now the Chinese alligator is so cute, and I love it so much. Or the Yangtze alligator. Yeah, they hibernate as well. I think all the crocodiles hibernate. But yeah, they're up to 2 meters. They're really small range. But yeah, and they hibernate for 6 or 7 months, like most of the year. They're hibernating, which is quite interesting. But yeah, they're one of the world's most endangered crocodiles, which is quite a shame. There's less than 120 of them, so they're not doing great. But yeah, both the males and the females are solitary. I think that contributes to their kind of the threats they're kind of facing, because they're kind of less. They're quite spread out between themselves. And yeah, like the American alligator, they're nocturnal. So those are the only 2 alligators. This one, now we're onto the caimans, which are under the alligators, but they're not directly related. So they're Alligatoridae. they're not alligators. And yeah, so you get the 6 species. They're the smallest of the crocodiles, except for one, which we'll get to at the end. And once again, they have this wide U-shaped jaw. But the thing that distinguishes the caimans is they have this upright posture of the head. And you'll see in some of the pictures as well. They kind of sit and they go up like a cat. They have that, and it's really quite cute. But yeah, instead of the conical teeth, they have those kind of dagger-like teeth, which are more. And instead of being beige, the inside of the mouth is orange. So yeah, that's nice. You know, the spectacled caiman is the first caiman, and you can tell these apart because they have this little bony ridge between their eyes, which are quite, so it looks like they're wearing spectacles, and I have quite a good photo after this. And they live in all sorts of habitats. They occupy the salt and the freshwater, but they are the most common. So you get these gatherings of more than 1 million. That's the next one. There are more than 1 million in the wild. But yeah, they're least concerned, so they're nice. Here's a nice picture. You can see that little bony ridge in the eyes. So it looks like he's wearing. And you can see here, if you can see those spots, can you see those? Those are the integumentary sense organs. So they can feel movements in the water, and they're really sensitive. So they can feel. Yeah, here's the broad snouted caiman, the next one, and they have this like shoved up pug-like face. But yeah, these the snout is as wide of the eyes as it is long. So that's kind of, they have this kind of square head. But yeah, again, they eat these kind of hard-shelled food like crustaceans and mollusks with that hard, powerful jaw. And yeah, they can grow up to 3 meters, so they're quite small like the other ones. And there's 250,000 to 500,000 in the wild. And these are all kind of South America focused. And then we have the Yacaré caiman, and you can see here that upright posture that I was talking about. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but yeah, so they sit, and it's really good. And they look so happy. So yeah, alligators are a lot friendlier looking than crocodiles. Imagine they have that tooth. That's weird. That's normally a crocodile sign. Huh. Maybe I got the wrong picture. But yeah, so these are kind of 3 meters long. They're similar. They look similar to the spectacled caiman, but they don't have that bony ridge. So that's kind of how you up. And jaguars and anacondas might eat them, which is kind of cool. It's kind of badass. And these are the ones with the big gatherings. So they'll gather. It's past the largest crocodile gathering in the world. So you get more than 10,000 within the Brazilian Pantanal, which is quite cute. And these ones are nice and protected. They're all the caimans are doing quite well. And the black caiman is the big one I was talking about. These ones are beastie. Look at him. He's huge. Oh, they're great. And yeah, so they live in those kind of shallow freshwater habitats, and they're the largest of the alligators. And they're also the largest predators in the Amazon River Basin. And hot damn, that's pretty cool. So they hunt at night. That's why they have that black skin. But maybe also for heat absorption. Scientists tend to disagree on these kind of things. But yeah, like the what are they called? American alligators. They nearly went extinct, but they're doing quite well now, which is also very nice to hear about. So yeah, but not much is known about these ones. They're more mysterious, which is weird because they're the bigger ones. You'd think they'd be fine. I guess everyone's too scared to research them, which fair enough. You know, can't blame them. And then we have another little cute one, the Cuvier's dwarf caiman. Oh, I love them. And you can keep them as pets in like America, but you shouldn't. But yeah, these are the smallest crocodilian, and they're also believed to be the most primitive, which is quite cool. And yeah, often kept as pets because they won't eat your family. And they live in these kind of forested riverine habitats and kind of flooded forests. So like with the kind of dense vegetation kind of thing. And again, these are the least concerned. They're doing quite well. Yeah, there's more than 1 million in the world. So the caimans are doing good. We can be happy for them. We have another dwarf caiman, the Schneider's dwarf caiman. And they're slightly larger than Cuvier's, and they prefer the freshwater river systems. They live in like the kind of Amazon and all that kind of stuff. And the adults will spend a lot of time in burrows outside of water, so they'll move out of the water. So rather than a lot of crocodiles can hang out just in the water, like or basking in the sun. And once again, these are least concern, which is nice. It's always good to hear. And now onto the crocodiles. Yeah, I think we've got plenty of time. I'm a bit worried about that this will take ages because there's a lot of these, but I think I'll probably slow down a bit. So we have 14 species of crocodile. There's quite a few. I won't go through all those because I'll be going through those afterwards. So you have this massive range. You have the dwarf crocodile up to 2 meters, and the saltwater crocodile, which is insane, and my personal favorite. And the way you can tell these from the alligators is, well, the main way, like, you can just tell the vibe. Alligators look friendlier. These look like they want to eat your kids. They have that kind of angular jaw. It's more V-shaped, while the alligator is rounded and curved. And their teeth is a really good indicator. So you can see here at the bottom, the 4th tooth, there's like an indentation in the top jaw. So when they close it, that will stick up. And you can see some of the other ones back here. They also stick up. So they interlock rather than the alligator where it's just over the top, which is, and I think it's the saltwater crocodile. They have one of the most powerful bites in the animal kingdom, which is pretty sick. It's quite an impressive thing to do. But yeah, so they, unlike the alligators, a more closer way you can tell them apart is those integumentary sense organs. So they're all over the body rather than just on the head. And they also have those salt glands, which were missing in the alligator. So they can go to salt water, like the saltwater crocodile, which is fun. Oh yeah, here we go. So here is the alligator. You can see, and if you look at the nostrils, you can get a kind of feel for the width of the jaw compared to the crocodile. You go to the crocodile, you have those teeth, and it looks scarier. But yeah, you just have a look at those. There's not many other differences. I guess the head is kind of smaller as well for the crocodile, but that's relative to its body. But I don't know how that's. But yes, we've got a lot of crocodiles coming up, so let's just take a moment to appreciate this. I don't know if it's fake, but
it's like a whole album of photos like that.
Is there?
Yeah, I'll find it. I don't know if they put them on there, but there's a whole album of photos.
Oh, to be fair, they probably did. It's just wonderful. But yeah, into the crocodiles. The slender snouted crocodile is it's like 4 minutes long, and they have that kind of slender snout. As you can see, they're kind of fish eaters. You can tell from the kind of thing, and they're quite interesting. So yeah, they're quite shy, and so they weren't classified as critically endangered for quite a while, and then recently they kind of found out that yeah, these guys aren't doing great. So but yeah, they're restricted to freshwater, and they're kind of they like their densely vegetated bits of water, like kind of forested rivers and stuff. But yeah, like I said, with their, you can see from their snout that they eat mainly fish, but also crocodiles are crocodiles, and they will eat pretty much anything that you throw at them. But yeah, there's only around like 1,000, 20,000, but they're really quite shy, so it's hard to know exactly what's going on. Yes, the American crocodile is a lot paler. It's kind of, you can see here, it's and it's quite easy. You can't really tell this apart from other crocodiles, but if you're in the place where they are, you can normally tell them apart from the other crocodiles that are there, and the kind of American alligator, which I realize now looking at it, it doesn't actually cover the range of the American alligator. So that's a stupid thing for me to say. I apologize. Yeah, these are one of the biggest. Thing is, every website I went to for like all the crocodiles, they always said this is the biggest one. So I take that with a pinch of salt. But yeah, they reach about 6 meters. They're pretty beefy. I mean, they all kind of are, but they'll eat things like mice and insects. But they live up to 70 years, which is quite cute. It was like old living animals. It's kind of nice and wise. So I found out today the kakapo lives to up to 100 years. Like, that's insane. I didn't know that. The Orinoco crocodile is a very lovely looking one. Like, that colour is just so nice, and his eyes are terrifying. But yeah, I think the biggest teller for this one is that colour. And then again, you can see here these little spots. More on the nose. Probably just because noses are noses. They're good for snouting and pointing to things. And these also said they were the largest at 7 meters. But that was actually a record. So it wasn't actually. It's more like 5 meters. But yeah, these guys they're critically endangered. They're not doing great, which is a shame. And apparently, they have 6 scales on the back of their neck that distinguish it from the American crocodile. But I don't see it. I guess if you look here, you have that and that, but no. I think they make that up. I don't believe them. But yeah, you can see they're kind of stuck here. And yeah, cool crocodile, because I made this in a very chaotic way. Their ears, they're all their sense organs on top. So the nose and the ears and the nose and the eyes are all located in such a way that they can hide right with their head just sticking up out of the water. And they can see everything. Another cool thing about that, their eyes, designed for that kind of lifestyle, sitting low in the water, is, I learned this ages ago, the way the eye is actually built is kind of like a goat's eye, so they can see all around. So they just sit there and they know exactly what's going on all around them, which is it's really cool. So they're really well adapted. So they've survived well because they're just perfect for their lifestyles, and they're also beasts, absolute beasts. And now the Philippine crocodile, which looks exactly the same as all the others, but you can tell because you can find them in the Philippines. But they're kind of different. They have this broad snout, kind of, you can see. So with these ones, it's kind of it's longer than the slender one. But these are they're stubbier, more pug-like. Yeah, so they were all over the place, but now they're only found on those 3 islands, which is a shame. I also apologize for the maps. There are no good maps, no good quality maps of crocodile. Distributions, they're all like pixelated and horrible, but I guess for distributions you don't want to be too accurate because it's impossible to know for sure. But yeah, so they'll live in kind of rivers, ponds and marshes. They're restricted to fresh water. So that's probably also something restricting their range or like comeback if they can't travel between the islands. But yeah, they'll feed, like all crocodiles, they'll just eat all kinds of things. It's like small mammals, reptiles, birds, all that kind of stuff. And they're critically endangered as well. They're not doing great. But yeah, so but they live to 70 or 80 years, like the Orinoco, which is quite nice. I think there was somewhere where the bigger crocodiles live longer, which makes sense. That's a general rule found all over the place. So you get these big ones will live longer. But yeah, there's only 237 in the wild. There's a few captive breeding programs. Moralettes crocodile, once again, looks exactly the same as the others. But they're a lot smaller. You can kind of tell, and they're kind of in this range. Where if you look at the ranges, they don't really overlap that much. So that is quite a good indicator of what species there is. I was going to organise this based on west to east a few weeks ago, but I'm lazy and I never got around to that. So apologies. But yeah, they're the only New World crocs that will consistently make nest mounds to put their eggs on, which is quite cute, I think. And they're restricted to fresh water. But sometimes they can be found in brackish water. If they fancy it, they'll pop out to the beach for the day. But yeah, they have that kind of broad snout as well. But they're kind of darker than the American crocodile. Sorry, my computer's going to hate me for this. But back we go to the American crocodile. Very pale, very light. But these ones are quite a lot darker, a lot fatter as well. And they're least concern, which is always nice to hear about. Like 10,000 checked out. The Nile crocodile is a beast. Oh, these are like, look at that. That's just like so much muscle in there. It's kind of just these. Yeah, apparently they can increase by 30 centimeters a year if it's like good conditions. So they're pretty good. Another thing, the eyeball can be drawn into the skull while it's fighting to kind of protect it, which is badass, I think. And they're also least concerned, which is nice. But like, and this 1905 specimen was nearly 7 meters long. So they're just one of the. There's like a few of these crocodiles that are just big, beastie. There's the Nile, the Mogra, and the Salty, which we'll get to. But yeah, they're just I could stare at it all day. So cool. But yeah, they're all over Africa. The New Guinea crocodile. I'm sure you can guess where it's from. It can be found in Papua New Guinea, and apparently there might be 2 different species. It's kind of debated. I think that the southern one, they're morphologically distinct slightly, but it's one of those things in science. It's like the 2 gharials, just no one can figure it out. But the southern one, if it is a new species, it's called the Hall's New Guinea crocodile. They're kind of reasonable size. And you can see here there's kind of coloration. It's kind of dark on top, a lot more kind of black and white rather than the kind of brown color that you see in all the other ones. But once again, there's just this huge variation on this one compared to this one. It's just like you kind of have to use where you found it. But yeah, they're restricted to freshwater, so they're probably like inland of the things. And yeah, so they don't live as long, which is a shame. But they're least concerned because the crocodiles are actually doing quite well, apart from a few of them, which was really nice to hear, because like you don't know. Yes, the Mugger crocodile is the second beastie crocodile, and I mean like he tigers, like oh my god, they're just so beastie. I love them. So yeah, they can reach out to 5 meters. And if you think about it, like some of these have just been like brushing over that they're 5 meters long. Like from here to here, that's like 4 meters. These are huge. Like they're I don't know. You can't get over how big they are. It's insane. But yeah, they're freshwater and coastal saltwater. A lot of them, I think only the saltwater is truly saltwater. A lot of these will go like kind of freshwater, brackish kind of thing. But they kind of have these rough, thick scales and muddy brown coloration, and they have the widest snout of any crocodile, which is I want to say cute, but I don't think that's really a cute thing. But yeah, they're not very sexually dimorphic, but the female is a little bit smaller, which is it's interesting. But they only live to about 30 years, which is interesting because like they're one of the big ones. So it's interesting. But yeah, like the others, they dig burrows. And I love that crocodiles dig burrows. It just makes me so happy. But yeah, they've been known to take long distance overland treks. So they'll walk quite far to get to like different kind of breeding grounds, different feeding areas. And this 100 here, because I was going to give them all a beastiness rating, but then I decided against it. Entirely not out of laziness. These are actually vulnerable, but which is a shame. The Cuban crocodile is the most aggressive crocodile, which is quite fun. And they have this overland walk. But the really cool thing about these is they can jump. I'm like, but yeah, these were Fidel Castro had quite a few of these as pets, which is quite a fun little fact. Yeah, they're the most terrestrial, and they have this kind of like upright walk. You can kind of see. But yeah, they're aggressive. They're ones that will go out and eat you. But yeah, they can only be found in these 2 spots. And the funniest thing, I loved reading about it on the kind of thing because it was from a crocodile zoo. When they're in the wild, they're solitary and they'll hunt alone. So they're kind of all right. You can deal with one aggressive thing. But when they were put in captivity, they formed a pack. And apparently that was quite scary for the zookeepers. But yeah, they're critically endangered. They're not doing too well. Like I said, they're kind of restricted to these two little spots. And they have eyebrows. it's really cute. That's a good way of doing it. But although there is another one with eyebrows, but these ones they've got a high walk on the eyebrows. They're quite easy to tell apart from that. And this was Seb's Valentine's Day card to me. I figured I'd put it in there because, it's quite cute. And then you have the Siamese crocodile. Like I said, it has the eyebrows, which is a shame because I was so excited by the eyebrows in this one. It's like a way of telling them apart. But no, these ones also have the eyebrows, and they're interesting. They have this kind of they're quite chunky, but I guess they all are. Here's a nice big one. As you can see, it looks exactly the same as all of the others. But it's cool. It's just cool to know that these exist. So when you watch Gattenberg, it's like, oh, Siamese crocodile. You're like, hey, I know that. But yeah, they're also called. Is this one? No, that's a different one. So they prefer kind of like still waters, that kind of Bernie crest. And they live as a family, which is really nice. I think they're the only crocodile. Yeah, that's quite unique in crocodiles. They don't really tend to live in that. But yeah, they also. I don't know why I wrote mysteriously construct burrows. They just construct burrows like all the others, which is really cute. And they're not aggressive. They're just lovely. They eat fish. They're happy unless they're kind of hybrid bred, and then they get more aggressive, which isn't quite so fun, especially for kind of zookeepers and stuff, and pet keepers. But I guess pet keepers kind of have it coming if they're keeping these kind of crocodiles. I just noticed the time. I'll hurry up a little bit. But yeah, they're critically endangered. They've really reduced. They're one of the rarest, and they were thought to be extinct, but then they kind of keep coming up with sightings, and they're like, "Hey, I've seen a Siamese crocodile." And I was like, "What?" But yeah, there's only like 250, and their blood has antimicrobial properties, so it's good to conserve them because we might be able to exploit them later on. And yeah, this next one is really, really quite scary. So if you're kind of like the squeamish type, I'd recommend looking away. This is not. Oh my god. Oh, it's just. To cuddle him. This is the West African dwarf crocodile. Like the dwarf caiman, it's small. And you can see here his nice size. Comparison. So you can kind of see. I think this is a baby. They're not that small. They're not like lizard side, but they're really small. And they're cute. They're so cute. The world's smallest crocodile, which is what the website said about the caiman as well, the dwarf caiman. So I'm really skeptical of all these record-breaking things. But yeah, they're like 1.8 meters. They're just tiny, and they live in pairs sometimes, which is cute. See, these creatures are really, really cute. They have this reputation of being like horrible, aggressive, evil things, and sometimes they really are. But they're cute. They're lovely. They look after the young. They live in families sometimes, and they live in pairs. They're fantastic. But yeah, they live in burrows again. They're kind of heavily armored. They have this kind of dark black-sized yellow belly with black bits, like the grey-crested newt, but more scaly. And they're quite. They're not very well studied. We don't know much about them, which is interesting. And they're not doing too great. They're doing alright. They're doing better than most. For the most part, up to now, it's kind of been like they're either doing great or they're about to die. But these are kind of just halfway there. But they're kind of freshwater. They're generally found in swamps, and but they can be found in savanna pools. So they'll go onto the savanna when there's a pool, and when the dry season dries up, they just hide in burrows or tree roots, which is cool. So they don't drown or in the air, or they need the water. You know what I mean. So it's like 25,000 to 100,000. They're quite unaggressive. They're quite easy to capture. So they're kind of kept as pets as well, like the other one. I'm sure one of these is probably from a terrarium or something, one of these pictures. They're quite cute. Freshwater, I saved the Aussie ones till last because they're cool. Freshwater crocodile is a very cool one. They're nice. You'll be fine. They have this kind of upright walk. They look quite Australian, to be fair. I don't know if that's just me. But yeah, they're kind of found in this kind of northern area. So if you're in southern Australia, you're fine. Except these kind of little dots scare me. Because it's like, you can never be quite sure. But yeah, they can only be found in Australia. And like I said before, the size of the prey correlates with the size of the crocs. The little ones eat the little mice and kind of stuff. And they can tolerate salt water. If you were in the quiz last week, was it last week? I think it was last week. You would have seen that question. And they're only stuck in the rivers because at the bottom of the rivers are the saltwater crocodiles, which we're about to go on to, which are really quite scary. And they don't really attack humans, which is quite nice. And there you can see that their hind legs are longer than their forelimbs. You can kind of see that, especially when they're in the water. You can see it. It's not a very good picture. But yeah, they're quite shy. They don't really bother humans. They're pretty and yeah, they have those kind of narrow jaw which distinguishes it from the saltwater, which is quite nice. They have the high walk, all that kind of stuff. And when to get to places like the mugger crocodile, they will take these overland walks. They will walk across, which is quite interesting, and they can gallop, they can run, which is cool. I mean, sad I didn't get a picture of it. But that's a pretty badass thing. But they're doing quite well. All the Australian ones are doing quite well. I think they're protected, which is good. The beast, the big beastie one. Oh, these are my personal favorites because they're badass. It wouldn't be a crocodile talk without mentioning Steve Irwin. He did a lot of work on trying to get kind of demonstrate that these really scary looking creatures, it's kind of like typically like snakes and stuff, were like they're actually quite nice. They're really, and like kind of showing, and he had this really interesting technique in kind of in making these kind of films and stuff. He put himself in these really dangerous situations where you just be so invested in it because it's so scary that you just listen to everything he was saying. And yeah, unfortunately he died, which was a shame, but that's a whole other thing. But yes, saltwater. I'm aware at the time. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be quick. This one is actually pretty mean. But yeah, I mean, like with most things, if you leave them alone, they're not going to hurt you. Their teeth can grow 5 inches, which is huge. I wouldn't want to be bitten by one. But yeah, they'll eat anything. They've been around, and they have the most powerful bite of any living creature, which is badass. But yeah, they have completely legal protection, which is nice. They're completely fine. And yeah, they go out to sea. They guard the sea against the freshwater crocodiles. So swimming in kind of North Australia area is not a fun thing. Not that I've done that, but I want to do that. But yeah, they've had specimens like 7 meters. They weigh a ton. They weigh as much as a car. They're badass. But yeah, they make all these really. I'll send a video. I found a video of like the kind of sounds they make. It is really cool. I could just listen to it all day. But yeah, they're doing quite well. All the Aussie ones do. Although they're not doing so well in India, but they do really well in Australia, which is. And on to the gharials, and then I'll go through this quickly because I know we're running out of time. There are so many of these. I apologize, but it's just fun to know about them. This is also known as the Tomastoma, and they're pretty big. These are huge, and they're kind of freshwater. They're pretty generous, despite their kind of fishy mouth. They probably eat kind of most kind of things, and they have the thinnest snout of the crocodile, which is cool. They also have the longest snout of any crocodile. So yeah, you can kind of see it there. It's sticking out of the water, and also the largest egg of any crocodile. So these are really like they just break every record. And yeah, their snout is designed for it's kind of a fish catching thing. They can go through the water pretty quickly, and they're vulnerable. So they're kind of the halfway point again. So they're kind of doing all right, but they're kind of not at the same time. They're kind of not a gharial, but also a gharial at the same time. No one can agree. Everyone's really confused about it. They have so many differences, but so many similarities as well. That it's a rabbit hole to go down. Yes, now gharial, quick. The true gharial is freaky looking. It looks like an alien. Look at this thing. Oh, they're fantastic. As well, they're massive. This was their past range. They used to go all over there, but then they're stuck to these little. I apologize for these maps. They're awful. I couldn't find any good ones. But yeah, you have these kind of entrances to the things. It's all kind of good. But yeah, they have that kind of sexual dimorphism where the females are much smaller, and they're sit weight predators like all most of the crocodiles. And they'll kind of they have those sensory cells in the snout, so they'll say wait for the kind of water to go, and they'll be like, oh, it's a fish, and they'll whip their head around and grab the fish, which is cute. And then the males have that gara at the top of their snout, so the little bowl, which is named after an Indian pot. But I don't see it, apart from the fact that they're both around. It's not. But yeah, the Europeans came and misread gharial as gavial, so that's why they have two names. So Gavialis gangeticus, and it is one of the largest, although, like I said, they all say they're the largest, and everyone's just proud of the thing. But that gharial acts as kind of like a resonator, so it makes this loud buzzing sound that's used to attract mates. And they live quite a long time, and they are critically endangered and decreasing. So we might lose the gharial, but hopefully not. But yeah, this is a cute little thing. Those are all the crocodiles. You know what exists. It's stored somewhere in your brain. I apologize, that was long-winded. That was a lot. But next time you see it on Atterbury, be like, hey, I know that. So here's a little thing. Here's the crocodile here. Wait, is it? I think so. Yeah, that's a crocodile. It could be a gharial, but you can't really tell. I'd say that's a crocodile. That's a crocodile as well. You can see the teeth. And then that's the alligator with the round little bit. And this is another crocomerium from Seb, which I thought I'd put it because Seb sent me a few of these. And unfortunately, they're cute, they're lovely, but they're terrifying. So people really, it's hard to make people like, and that's why people like Steve Irwin was so good, because they kind of showed that they're actually really quite nice. And I found this in less than a minute on the Sun. So moving on to Leela's part to tell us about conservation.
Cool, thank you. I guess I will, it's echoing. Turn your mic off.
I'm sorry.
Right, cool, thanks. Yeah, I guess I'll just do rather a whiz through this because of the time, but that's fine. So, yeah, I'm going to be talking about the different kinds of threats that crocodiles are faced with. Unfortunately, there are quite a lot. So we'll just look at a few of those, and also the different conservation approaches that organizations take to kind of mitigate those threats. Next slide. Thank you. So one of the primary issues, sorry, I've never had to say next slide before now. That's just funny. Okay. Primary issues crocodiles face is hunting. So crocodile skin is highly prized for these lovely designer handbags we can see here, and they're also used for boots and belts and a whole load of other things. It's mostly crocodile and alligator skins, alligators which are used for their skins, because caimans have got bony segments in their stomach, well, the skin of their stomach, which makes it a lot harder to get nice leather for your handbag out of them. But from what I gathered, they are cheaper to farm, so sometimes the cost is kind of outweighed by that. Then, go back. Do I look like I finished? No, I haven't. Thank you. They are also hunted for food, so they're directly, hunted and eaten by local people, and they are also then served up in exotic restaurants in those countries for tourists, and also exported abroad. I think China was the main importer of crocodile meat, and they use that both for food and for use in traditional medicine. Then we get trophy hunting, as we can see in this picture here. That was the least gross picture, otherwise you've got a lot of nice shots of guys posing next to the dead crocodile with its mouth open, which just make me feel slightly sick. And then you also get crocodiles being hunted as retaliation for attacks on people or livestock, although that is less common. Next slide. Right, then another major issue is resource loss. And so the creation of dams and canals and irrigation for agriculture drains water from rivers, and then the crocodiles have nowhere to live. Overfishing also depletes food resources. The construction of roads and buildings and the use of land for agriculture takes away resource opportunities for the crocodiles. And also a kind of more subtle or indirect effect of deforestation on crocodiles is that if you take trees out of like a bank such as the one in the bottom left picture, then the banks become loose and crumble, and if you get a flash flood or even just a lot of heavy rain, all the sand and the earth washes into the river, and you just get a whole load of sedimentation, which has a whole load of problems. So it blocks up the rivers, you're going to have less fish, and then the crocodiles have got nothing to eat, and it is a disaster. Yep, next slide, please. Other issues crocodiles face are dangerous fishing techniques. So you have gill netting, which is a net using a net for fishing, such as in the bottom right, which crocodiles swim into because they don't see it and then they get stuck and drown. And you also get dynamite fishing, which is just a great thing that people do all over the world. And fisherman goes out, throws a stick of dynamite into the water, and like that kills or stuns a whole load of fish, which he then goes around and collects and takes home to sell. But as I'm sure you can imagine, that is a terrible idea, because not only does the fisherman risk losing a limb or going deaf or having a heart attack or dying, he also kills a whole load of fish he's never going to harvest, like a whole load of other organisms he doesn't realize are dead, and of course crocodiles, and that also kills their food. Then you get pollution by heavy metals and just general other like chemical and like plastic pollution. I think in a river in India, I believe it was, they found 100 dead gharials over just a few months, and an autopsy showed that they'd died due to a combination of parasites and heavy metal poisoning. So even if the pollution doesn't necessarily, it's not fatal on its own, in combination with other stresses and other issues the crocodiles face, then it can prove fatal. And then you have the exotic pet trade, which George mentioned, with the, especially caimans and the smaller species, because they're cuter, they're less problematic. But nonetheless, if you do look it up, you will see interesting, slightly worrying pictures of people posing next to, their 5-meter long crocodile, which, like, why? And these people, they have pet dogs and stuff as well as their crocodile, and I'm just like, this is not going to end well. This is going to end in a lot of sadness for somebody. So don't buy crocodiles. Next slide, please. Yep, so a combination of issues means that crocodile numbers are suffering. 7 crocodilians are critically endangered and 4 are vulnerable. So, yeah, like George mentioned, it seems to be a weird mix of, there are some which are doing very, very well, and then others which are just terrible and have really, really low numbers, like less than 500. That's worrying. Next slide, please. So there are thankfully a bunch of different organizations and sanctuaries out there which are aiming to protect crocodiles. They have a bunch of different approaches for this. So first of all, you can breed crocodiles in captivity to then later release them a few generations down the line, or you can take eggs and juveniles from the wild before releasing them at a later stage. And that's useful because in the wild, while it varies greatly according to season and species, like some of the numbers I was finding was that crocodile and alligator eggs have a roughly 50% hatching success rate, and then a 10 to 50% survival rate for juveniles. And in captivity, however, you can keep this around up to 90%, even 96%. And yeah, then that allows you to keep the crocodiles and then release them later. And also, if you're breeding them in captivity, you can maintain an equal sex ratio because of the temperature sex determination. So if you've had a period of drought in one area and you are stuck with just a whole load of female crocodiles, you can then just mainly breed males and release those, or you can make sure you've got equal numbers to release. Then if you have, say, a construction site that's going to come up and there are crocodiles at risk, you can move them into a sanctuary or move them to a safer place in the wild. You can also move crocodilians which are being blamed for taking livestock or threatening people, and so instead of just shooting them, which is a bit depressing, you can put them somewhere safe but where they're also not going to harm other people. And finally, you get farms for skins and meat, which means that animals don't have to be taken out of the wild and then they're bred in controlled conditions. Next slide. Thank you. So these conservation ways of management are generally good, but they do have a bunch of issues associated. So a common thing is that organizations will focus on species which are hunted for their skin, for instance, because that's just a very obvious threat that they can perceive, and then they don't spend as much money protecting species which have got much fewer numbers. So, for instance, the gharials or the Orinoco crocodiles. And then while you've got a much higher survival and reproductive rate of crocodiles bred in captivity, when you then go ahead and release those, they are a lot less adapted to living in the wild. And a study on some gharials released in Nepal showed that I think it was like they released 100-ish gharials over 10 or 20 years, and then they came back 10 years later and there was just one adult, and it's just because they hadn't bred. And it's sad that these like really endangered species, if you don't have proper measures in place to make sure, I guess you'd need a kind of way to make sure they adapt to living in the wild, or you release them at young enough age. It's just super complicated, and then you've got all the costs associated with that. And then last point on this slide is, yeah, local communities, if they are hunting crocodiles to eat, if you're going to stop them from being able to do that, you need to provide them with an alternative source of food. Or if they're hunting them to sell, you've got to provide them with an alternative sustainable livelihood so they don't turn to either illegally hunting the crocodiles in a way that you can't manage and you have no idea how many are being lost each year, or to hunting another endangered species, or just turning to some other form of, illegal activity. So one thing you can do is compensate them for lost livestock and things like that. Next slide. Yeah, so also people like the rarity of wild skins, which is kind of sickening. And it can be hard to keep crocodiles in captivity because of the risk to, the keepers, and also welfare issues surrounding them. And also farming crocodiles is unsurprisingly quite expensive. And I was reading that the market for skins just really fluctuates. So like every 20 to 30 years, it will just crash. And so if you've got a crocodile farm and you've got 1,000 odd animals, when the prices crash, what the heck are you going to do with all of those? So it's cheaper for you to go and shoot wild animals or catch them and then export them, rather than have a farm that you've got to keep managing for the next, the rest of your life, basically. Next slide, please. Right, I think this is the last slide. Yeah, so luckily it's not all doom and gloom. A lot of crocodiles which were previously endangered have now bounced back thanks to a whole lot of organisations doing great work protecting them. There's an International Crocodilian Farmers Association which is working to increase the welfare of captive animals, and they also they make sure that if they have excess animals, or I think they have a quota anyway, that they release back into the wild to kind of help local population levels, which I thought was really cool. Then you have organisations educating and working with local communities to make sure that they understand the threats that, like, how of their fishing, for instance, what threats that poses to the crocodiles. And also you have organisations just continuing to do scientific surveys and assessments to understand the animals and the people's needs, and to see how those can be mitigated and how we can continue to protect them in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. It's like they are kind of, it has got that range. If you guys want, I can send a link to kind of, I know it's a bit weird to ask, but like to kind of to the donation page for Crocodiles of the World, because really it's kind of like, because these zoos are kind of struggling at the moment as well, because they're just not getting their money and they still have to look after, and they're doing some really good work. So I gave them £5 yesterday, but
I think that's a really cool idea. I think we could post it on the community chat later, and anyone who'd like to donate, that would be really nice.
Yeah, I thought it'd be worth it. I also have a confession to make. I've eaten crocodile meat before. But let's move on. You guys are allowed to leave if you want. It's 6 o'clock, but it's we really should have put aside like an hour and a half for this. But oh well. But yeah, we have a little quiz. The first part is it a crocodile or an alligator? Because I don't know the species of this. I'm not that good. The first one is the meme that Seb sent me. Is this a crocodile or is this an alligator?
Feel free to turn your mics on or comment in the chat.
Yeah. Just like shout it out. Oh, yeah. One more.
Shall I do a countdown from 10? You have 10 seconds, guys. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's an alligator. You can tell it's just got that kind of it's got a rounded jaw. It's quite friendly. It's got that kind of, it's not got the I mean, it's so covered in moss, it definitely could be a crocodile, but I'm pretty sure it's an alligator. Next one. Is it a crocodile or is it an alligator?
It's obviously a pancake.
It's obviously a pancake. You can thank Humphrey for this one.
I want to share the video, but I don't know if it's
We can share the video after this.
Stick it in the chat.
It is indeed a croc. You can tell from the teeth. So you have that little tooth sticking out. I'm still confused by that caiman picture that had the tooth sticking at the bottom. I'm gonna have to look into that. I'll let you guys.
It's just a mutated caiman.
Yeah, it could be. It's also really hard finding pictures of these because like you look up crocodile and it just comes up with some random species sometimes. It's really hard to tell.
Is he sunning himself here?
I have
know that some lizards kind of spread their rib cage out to increase the surface area.
True. Mm.
It doesn't it? I forgot about that.
Or is he literally just a
I think
pancake?
he might just be a pancake crocodile. But I think you could be right.
Both. Yeah.
They do bask in the sun. But I think that's a saltwater crocodile. But that's just going off vibe. Part 2, species schmecies. See if you can tell me the actual species. This one, I'm sure this has a couple of distinctive features that I'm sure you'll be able to tell from. See, it's weird, these ones, because some of them are so similar looking, but it's surprising how many actually are quite distinct. My parents don't understand how locked doors work. That's fine. Anyone else? Any other takers?
I wasn't listening to the question, sorry.
Oh, it's just if it's what crocodile is. Right.
I'll count down. Wait, 5, 4,
It's almost saying something.
2, 1.
It is indeed an Orinoco crocodile. So you can tell it's very yellow. The kind of main distinction, and you have these really kind of green eyes. You can see. Oh, what is it? What is it? It's the crocodile. It's fair enough. Those are some quite spooky teeth. I like those.
They look almost like mini tusks. It's very cute.
Yeah. It's a shame keeping them for pets is incredibly immoral.
I know they would be so adorable, but it's so terrible.
Jump to own a zoo and make it legal, make it good. All right, we'll do a 5-second countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off!
Yes! It's a West African dwarf. And you can tell because it's a little dwarf crocodile and it's got the teeth. I don't know how to tell between West African and Schneider. Wait, no, Schneider's. No, Schneider's was caiman. So yeah, no, it's definitely a West African dwarf. They do have cute teeth, don't they? Now, what is this one? This one's got one very distinctive feature. I'm very disappointed in you if you can't get this. Not quite the eyebrow one. It's the spectacled caiman. He's wearing spectacles. He's got a cute little bony ridge in the eye. Oh, whoa! Look at the nose. It's got teeth sticking up its nose.
I only just noticed what the heck is up with that.
That's mad. The more you know. And also you can see here these.
Is this going to be like where if they don't use their teeth enough, they kind of just go through their
It could
the
be.
top of their mouth, maybe?
I
like
think I do
hippos and
remember
stuff.
reading. I think I do remember reading somewhere that they have their teeth go through their nose. I don't know why I didn't include it, but it could. It definitely could be. What's this one? You can see those the little spots there. The integumentary sense organs are a very distinguishing feature here. You should be able to figure this out. Come on, everyone. Come on. You can get it. Yeah. Yeah. Eyebrows. Which one had eyebrows? Oh, come on. 10 seconds.
10, 9. I'm having way too much fun with this. 8, 7.
Come on. Come on.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's the Cuban croc. To be fair, I found this picture after doing the Cuban croc slide. I was like, that has to go in a quiz. That's good. And then afterwards, I found out there's other ones with eyebrows, which was the. What was the other one? The jump. Yeah, it's the jump. This is the jumping one. The other one with eyebrows was the Siamese crocodile, I think. I'll double check that. I'll upload these slides with a few more pointers in afterwards. But yes, thank you so much for listening. I hope it was interesting. I hope I didn't talk too fast. I should have allocated more time.
I whizzed really quick.
Yeah, that was my fault. I tried very hard to be
No, that's
quick.
fine. Don't worry.
Really?
I was
That's
like
fine.
concerned that I would actually not have enough to say, but I think I had stuff.
Yeah. No, your bit was good. I enjoyed it.
George, every time you say water, it makes me so happy.
Water?
Water?
Every time you say corridor, it makes me so happy.
Corridor.
And passive.
I wasn't expecting you to chuck the Valentine's card. It took me off guard.
Thank you.
Oh dear.
Every time you send me something, it's going in. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. I was a bit worried when I was just like, I'll just go through every croc, that it would be a bit slow and boring.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. I think that's been a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was nice to see so many of you there. Yeah. Can't remember reading the next part.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, next time you watch a nature documentary and you see some of these crocodiles, you'll be like, I know that. Yeah. The birds test as well.
Mm.
Yeah,
I forgot all of that stuff, like how crocodiles have a really weird way of staying underwater, don't they? When they do something weird, don't they, with their lungs? Oh, the heart, was it?
Mouth is like. Yeah, I didn't want to just repeat the birds like.
No.
Go on, Vert.
Crocodile pelvis, the dinosaur pelvis.
Yeah.
Oh, the fucking dinosaur.
Hang on, let me post Flat Fuck Friday. That was it.
Flat.
It's the croc that's flat. Someone tweeted it with the caption, "It's Flat Fuck Friday, everyone."
Well, I've got to shoot off now because I have another meeting, so I shall see you guys.
All
and
right.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having a section. It was very good. It was very interesting.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.